In this video, I want to talk about the study of polyglottery so that I can say a few words to introduce this book, Babel No More, The Search for the World's Most Extraordinary Language Learners, published by Michael Erard earlier this month, January 2012. Again, to introduce this book to any of my watchers who might not have heard about it or read about it yet, you're certainly going to want to read a copy of this book. It's a truly pioneering and important work. It's the first book that ever explores the whole phenomenon of polyglots and polyglottery in any detail, and I think it really lays the foundation for further study of the subject by immediately dispelling two myths about polyglots. The first one being that we don't exist. There are some people out there who honestly don't believe that it's possible for any one person to learn more than a few languages, and I think with the book documenting the fact that it is possible, they'll be able to accept that. And the other myth about polyglots is that we know some specific number of languages that we can easily quantify, state 50 languages, 100 languages, and that this means that we know them all perfectly and can speak them at the drop of a hat. And that's just not the way that it works. When you devote your life to studying languages, you inevitably have different levels of abilities in different languages at different times, and this book thoroughly establishes that by going around and actually meeting a number of different polyglots. The book is more of a travelogue in a sense, a popularizing work than a scholarly book covering about the past 200 years. The author starts out by looking at some polyglots, big name polyglots of the 19th century, to see if they're really real, and then introduces you to maybe a dozen living polyglots in the world today. And let's call a spade a spade. It's unusual, somewhat strange and unusual, to learn large numbers of languages. That's just not something that most people do, so it's by definition unusual. And in order to do something unusual and abnormal, you have to be somewhat quirky and eccentric. So it's usually relatively interesting to read about quirky and eccentric people. I hope you find it interesting to read about the quirky and eccentric people in here, because I happen to be one of them. And I was very flattered and happy to be able to play that role of being a guide into the world of polyglottery. And I don't mind the degree to which I appear as somewhat eccentric in the book itself, but since I'm talking about it, I would like to say I hope that this book is getting the wide degree of coverage and reviews that it seems to be, because friends and acquaintances of mine keep sending me links saying, hey, I read about you in this review, and sending it to me. And all the reviews of the book itself I've seen have been quite positive. And I hope I'm just being hypersensitive to the issue because it does involve me, but I feel that there are some things that are mentioned in the book that are taken out of context in some of the reviews and portray me in a light that I don't like, so I'd like to talk about that. One thing is that I'm quoted in the book as saying that most of the languages I've studied I have never spoken and I probably never will, and that's fine by me. Well, that's certainly completely true. I've been studying some languages for 20 years now without ever meeting a person who speaks it. I did not start studying them so that I could speak them to people. I studied them because they interest me in and of themselves, and the literature and the culture interest me. But while it's okay if I never meet anybody, it's preferable if I do. It'd be nice to speak a language. I enjoy speaking languages. It brings the language alive to speak it. It's really necessary if you ever want to master it. So to go from that quote to what I've seen implied is to say that I disdain speaking languages, I only want to read them, that I positively don't want to speak languages, that's inaccurate, that's false. But I'm not that eccentric, I don't think. But the track that the author is taking, though, is looking at these different individuals and acknowledging that there's something unusual about us, and trying to find some psychological link, some psychological tie that might explain it. So he goes at the angle of seeing if there's any personal psychological trauma we might have had that would push us in the direction of language study, or he'd like to look at our physical brains to see if the construct of a polyglot's brain is different from a normal person's brain. And in particular, looking at just a conglomerate of psychological personality traits to see if being a polyglot fits together with any of these traits that are actually all kind of negative, on the negative end of the scale. And I don't really like that. I don't feel comfortable with it, and more than that, I just don't agree with it. I've told him that in the course of his research, that I think just certainly explore this alley, but I think it'll prove to be a blind alley. You're barking up the wrong tree. There's no set of links that would explain the phenomena of polyglottery. What does it take to become a polyglot? You have to feel passionately interested in learning languages, and then you have to be dedicated. You have to do systematic, disciplined, hard work over a long period of time. That's it. That's the secret. You don't need any other set of traits in order to become a polyglot. You need systematic, disciplined, hard work. So that comes back to the subject of the study of polyglottery on the broad theme. One thing that this book is not it's not a manual of how to become a polyglot. It's not something that will tell you a set of things that you can do. And I just mention that because I think some people might hope that it is and be disappointed when it turns out not to be. It doesn't pretend to be that. It's more of a search of the lives of polyglots. For the study of polyglottery in that sense, though, does imply, I hope, that what's the value of us polyglots to the world as a whole, certainly with all of our experience in studying languages, with those of us who are interested in language education. Surely we should have something to teach. We abnormal language learners should have something to teach normal language learners who might aspire to become not hyper polyglots. What he's talking about here in this book are people who know more than a dozen languages, but people who know half a dozen languages, or not even necessarily who are aspiring to that, but just people who want to be effective, efficient students of language, self-study of languages, something that most polyglots study on their own. So for all that kind of study of polyglottery, that's what my channel is for. Those are what all the videos I've ever made have been about. That's what the information I try to give on my website, and what I've aspired to do in my professional teaching career, although it's always been kind of oblique when I've been able to really help students either to become polyglots or to just simply study foreign languages more effectively. I would very much welcome the opportunity at some point in my life to do that a lot more directly in person with students. So since I'm on the topic, let me say quite openly, I happen to be in Singapore at the moment, which Singapore is a very nice place. It has a lot of things going for it, and there are a lot of expats who come here and are enamored of the climate, but I'm not cut out for it. It's too hot here. It's summer all the time, and that's really oppressive after a couple of years, and I'd be quite happy to move back to the northern hemisphere and feel a cold wind in my face and the change of the seasons. So if anybody's watching this who is involved in a language school or program or department, and you'd be interested in having a polyglot come teach your students how, if not to become polyglots, but to study more effectively and more efficiently, by all means, I'd be very interested in hearing from you. Get in touch with me. But for those normal watchers, again, the book is Babel No More by Michael Erard. And I really welcome the publication of this book because I think that it gives the whole endeavor of polyglottery a degree of legitimacy and respectability and acknowledgement that it has not had in the past. So very much a book worth reading. Thank you.